how do you see this meeting and tensions over Taiwan really impacting the supply chain issues revolving semiconductors here moving forward?
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me again. Well, I think the geopolitical tensions apparently were going to increase. Look at the Beijing's response overnight. So I think the supply chain already been disrupted in the past 2 years. But if Taiwan is going to be locked down, surrounded by the Beijing military in the coming later weeks, based on this announcement, I think that will most likely to affect the chip export from Taiwan. So but we don't know how long it will last. But for the short period of time, we could expect some of the chips that are manufactured by the TSMC will have some problem to be shipped out to the U.S. customers, including NVIDIA, AMD, or even Apple, Qualcomm, these semiconductor giants in the U.S. and not just U.S. but globally. Consumer electronics, car, data centers will all be potentially effective if that lockdown persists for longer.
Sebastian, David here. So while we do try and figure out what potential disruptions might be, and by the way, it may or may not happen. If it happens, potentially big. What's the underlying forces at work right now within the sector in terms of? Let's talk about inventories. Let's go there. Are we continuing to see a drawdown in inventories?
The inventory actually correction control has already started since last quarter among supply chain. If you look at the inventory data, or days on inventory, this ratio, it has already shot up to the record high, and to some extent is even higher than the pre-dot-com bubble level the 2 decades ago. So if you look at that number, it's kind of scary. And right now we have a macro slowdown, so which means that the inventory correction is inevitable. Supply chain has started yet, but we think that they will continue to last for a few quarters. I think the TSMC or some of their companies in the recent earnings call release, they talk about this inventory will persist for like 2 to 3 quarters, at least from their perspective. So yeah, I think that's something that we're going to go through probably till the first half of next year before this whole inventory be cleared out.
Sebastian, just hold that thought for a second, because we're getting more lines out of this meeting taking place between the President of Taiwan and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. They're saying at the moment, at least the Taiwanese president, they're going to strengthen their self-defense capability. At the moment saying that they continue to work with the United States on Indo-Pacific security, naturally here as well, and that they would not back down to a heightened military threat here as well. Meanwhile, Central Bank Governor talking about there being sufficient foreign exchange reserves there as well for the territory. Sebastian, you know, we look at what's happening in the response we've just had from China with regards, and one of the things was, of course, this export ban on sand. So they're not going to be sending sand. How does that affect the semi side of things?
Well, I think the impacts will be. I think the Taiwan will be able to source those sand from the other regions. And overall, that doesn't account for much of the semiconductor manufacturing. I think the key thing is the silicon wafers, and then they can source that from the Japan and also Taiwanese makers and Germany. So I think that wouldn't be. So far, we haven't seen that as a key hurdle or threat to the overall semiconductors.